The sun was setting over Seattle, casting a golden glow over the city's skyline. The quiet suburban neighborhood of Rose Hill was bathed in warm hues as Liam Bennett turned onto his peaceful cul-de-sac, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anticipation. This was supposed to be a special weekend, a rare chance to rekindle the intimacy that had slowly faded from his marriage to Charlotte. Lately, their connection had felt like a dying ember, not because of constant fights, but because of something worse, indifference. A widening gap, filled with routine, silence, and a lingering sense of emotional distance. Tonight, he was going to fix it. Liam had cleared his schedule, ignored the flood of emails from work, and even shut off his phone, something he rarely did. He wanted to surprise Charlotte. To remind her of everything they had built together over the years. He had picked up a bouquet of blue hydrangeas, her favorite, and even planned a romantic dinner at La Fontaine, an elegant French restaurant they hadn't visited in years. Their 20-year-old daughter, Ava, was thriving in her second year of college. Their younger daughter, Lily, now 15, was away on a school camping trip. For the first time in years, they had the house to themselves. But as Liam pulled into the driveway, a faint unease settled in his chest. Charlotte's car was already in the garage. She was home early. His lips curled into a faint smile. Maybe she had the same idea. Maybe she had planned a surprise for him too. That would be exactly what they needed. As he stepped inside, the air felt off. The house was too quiet. "Charlotte?" he called, stepping into the foyer. No response. His brow furrowed as he moved through the house. The kitchen was spotless. Too spotless. No signs of dinner. No wine. No candles. A strange tightness gripped his stomach. Where is she? Then, from down the hallway, he heard it. Drawers opening. Closing. The faint rustling of fabric. His pulse quickened as he walked toward their bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open, expecting to see her turning around with a smile. But what he saw made his stomach drop. Charlotte was sitting at her vanity, carefully applying deep crimson lipstick. She was dressed in a sleek, form-fitting navy dress that accentuated her curves, the diamond earrings he had given her last Christmas glistening under the soft glow of the vanity lights. Beside her chair, a pair of stilettos rested neatly on the floor. And next to them, an overnight bag, half-packed. Inside, he saw delicate black lace lingerie. Something new. Something he had never seen before. The bouquet of hydrangeas slipped from his grip, landing with a soft rustle on the hardwood floor. For a moment, he just stared at her. "You look incredible," he said, forcing his voice to remain steady. His mind was spinning, trying to process what he was seeing. Did he forget something? Had she planned something for them, and he just missed the memo? "Where are we going?" he asked, his voice carefully light. "I can get ready in 5 minutes." He let out a small chuckle. But it felt hollow. Charlotte didn't smile back. Instead, she sighed, setting the lipstick down with eerie calmness. Then, she turned to face him. Her expression was unreadable. "Liam, we need to talk." His heart stopped. Everything inside him screamed that whatever was coming next would destroy him. Liam swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. "Talk?" His voice came out hoarse. "About what?" Charlotte took a slow, measured breath, like she had rehearsed this moment 100 times. "I didn't want to tell you like this," she murmured, avoiding his gaze. "But, since you're home early, I might as well get it out in the open." She hesitated. "Then, I have plans this weekend." His eyes flicked to the overnight bag. His stomach twisted. "Plans?" he echoed. She exhaled. "With someone else." For a moment, Liam thought he had misheard. The words felt distant, like a faded echo inside his mind. "You're joking," he said, letting out a breathless laugh. "This has to be a joke." Charlotte shook her head. "No. I'm not." The room tilted. His breathing became shallow. "You have plans?" His voice hardened. "With another man?" His mind raced, trying to make sense of it. "Are you telling me?" He stopped, pressing his fingers against his temple. "You're leaving for the weekend?" Charlotte sighed, as if the conversation had already drained her. "It's just for a few days, Liam," she said, her voice eerily composed. "I'll be back by Sunday. And everything will go back to normal." "Normal?" Liam let out a short, hollow laugh. "Are you *ing serious? ***. Charlotte flinched. But she recovered quickly. "I need this," she said, her voice icy cool. "I've been feeling lost since Ava left for college. I don't even know who I am anymore." "This isn't about you, Liam. It's about me." Liam's jaw clenched so tightly he felt his teeth ache. "And spending the weekend with another man helps you find yourself?" She didn't answer immediately. But when she did, her words cut deeper than he thought possible. "He makes me feel alive." The room spun. Liam forced himself to stay standing. To keep breathing. His voice came out as a barely audible whisper. "Who is he?" Charlotte hesitated. "He's just a friend," she said too quickly. "A married friend. We've had lunch a few times. He understands me." Liam's fists clenched at his sides. His entire body burned with the effort to stay calm. "You don't think this is cheating?" His voice was dangerously low. Charlotte squared her shoulders. "I'm telling you up front. That's not cheating." Liam let out a slow, bitter breath. "So let me get this straight," he said, his tone now laced with pure steel. "You're telling me you're spending the weekend with another man?" His jaw tensed. "In a hotel, I assume, and that's not cheating?" Charlotte hesitated. "It's just one weekend, Liam," she insisted, her voice still frustratingly calm. "One moment in time. It doesn't change how I feel about you." Liam's blood ran cold. "It changes everything." For years, he had trusted her. For years, he had devoted himself to their marriage. And now, with a few casually spoken words, she had shattered everything they had built. She was ready to walk out the door, like it was nothing. Like he was nothing. Liam took a slow step back. His body trembled, not from pain. Not from betrayal. But from something colder. Something darker. Charlotte turned back to the mirror, completely unbothered. Her lack of remorse only fueled the fire inside him. Liam's mind was racing. His blood boiled. But beneath the rage, beneath the humiliation, something else began to stir. A cold, calculated resolve. This wasn't over. This would never be over. If Charlotte thought she could rewrite the rules of their marriage without consequences, she was gravely mistaken. Liam's revenge was about to begin. Liam stood frozen in the doorway, watching Charlotte as she casually continued applying her makeup. The audacity of it. She had just admitted to betraying him, yet she didn't flinch. Didn't hesitate. Didn't care. The woman he had spent 16 years with, the mother of his children, was walking out on him like he was an afterthought. Something inside him snapped. But instead of exploding, he did something far more dangerous. He smiled. A slow, calculated smile. Charlotte finally noticed his silence and turned, her brows knitting together in confusion. "You're taking this, well," she muttered. Liam shrugged, stepping further into the room. Masking every ounce of rage burning beneath his skin. "Well," he said smoothly, voice devoid of emotion, "you were honest. And that's what matters, right? She blinked, clearly caught off guard. So, you understand? She asked, hesitant. Oh, I understand. You need to find yourself, he said, voice eerily even. And this man helps you with that? Charlotte exhaled, relieved. Exactly. Thank you for being reasonable, Liam. He walked over slowly, stopping in front of her. His gaze flicked to her overnight bag, to the lace lingerie neatly packed beneath folded blouses. His gut twisted. But he kept his face calm. He reached out and ran his knuckles along her jawline, softly. Charlotte inhaled sharply. His touch was unexpected. Have fun, he whispered. Then, he turned and walked out. Charlotte stared after him, stunned. But he didn't look back. Because he wasn't done. Oh, no. His revenge had only just begun. Liam entered his home office, closing the door behind him. The moment the latch clicked, his entire demeanor changed. His hands shook. His jaw tightened. His breathing was sharp, ragged. The urge to break something burned inside him. But not yet. Instead, he sat at his desk. Steepled his fingers. Think. Don't react. Plan. Execute. Charlotte thought she could play him. She thought she could spit on their marriage, on their history, on their vows, and return home like nothing happened. She thought she could rewrite the rules. And he would just accept it. She was wrong. Very, very wrong. Liam grabbed his phone, scrolling through his contacts. Until he landed on a name he hadn't touched in years. Eleanor Blackwood. A slow smirk curled his lips as he hit dial. The phone barely rang before a familiar, sultry voice answered. Well, well, well. Liam Bennett. I thought you were dead. He chuckled darkly. I need a favor. A pause. Then, interest. I'm listening. Game on. Charlotte left 2 hours later, dressed to perfection, heels clicking against the pavement as she pulled her suitcase behind her. Liam stood at the living room window, watching her walk away. She reached the curb. A black BMW was waiting. The driver's door opened. And then, he stepped out. Her lover. Liam's jaw tightened. He memorized his face. His posture. His nervous glance toward the house. The way he touched Charlotte's waist as he opened the passenger door for her. Good. Liam pulled out his phone. Snapped a photo of the license plate. He would find out everything about this man. And when he was done, there wouldn't be anything left of him. But first, he had a date of his own. The restaurant was elegant, the atmosphere thick with muted conversations and the scent of expensive wine. Liam sat at a private booth, his fingers drumming against the polished wood. And then, she walked in. Eleanor Blackwood. She was just as lethal as he remembered. Dark wavy hair cascading over one shoulder. Eyes sharp as glass-cut steel. Lips painted a deep, unforgiving red. A woman built for destruction. A woman who, once upon a time, had almost been his biggest mistake. She slid into the seat across from him. Crossed her legs slowly. Gaze dripping with amusement. You must be desperate to call me. Liam smirked, tilting his glass toward her. Or very, very smart. Her lips curled. All right, Liam. Tell me why I'm here. He leaned in. And then, he told her everything. By the time he was done, Eleanor was grinning like a cat with a fresh kill. Oh, darling, she whispered, eyes gleaming. You don't want just revenge. Liam met her gaze. Unflinching. No. I want ruin. She took a slow sip of her drink. Then, you came to the right woman. Within 24 hours, Eleanor had dug up everything. His wife's lover. His background. His finances. His weaknesses. The man's name was Brandon Calloway. Married. 2 kids. Filthy rich. And best of all, hiding secrets of his own. Liam smirked. Perfect. Now, it was time for the fun part. Sunday evening, Charlotte returned, just as she had promised. She dragged her overnight bag behind her, her expression carefully neutral. Liam was waiting in the living room, his posture relaxed, fingers wrapped around a glass of bourbon. His expression? Unreadable. Charlotte hesitated, then forced a small smile. I told you I'd be back. Liam gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. Charlotte froze. Something was off. Slowly, she lowered herself into the chair. Liam leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, his cold gaze never leaving her face. So, he said smoothly. How was your weekend? Charlotte stiffened. His tone sent a chill down her spine. It was fine, she said carefully. Liam nodded slowly. I bet. Charlotte swallowed. Liam, his phone buzzed. He held up a finger, cutting her off. Excuse me for a second. He pulled out his phone, and smirked. A single message flashed across the screen, Phase 1 is complete. He's about to lose everything. Charlotte frowned. Who was that? Liam's smile turned dangerous. Don't worry, sweetheart. His voice was low, controlled. You'll find out soon enough. Charlotte's blood ran cold. For the first time since this began, she felt something she hadn't before. Fear. And Liam knew it. Because this was just getting started. Charlotte sat stiffly, gripping the armrests of her chair. Liam scrolled through his phone, his calmness unsettling. He wasn't angry. He wasn't yelling. And that terrified her. Liam, she tried again, forcing an uneasy smile. You're acting strange. His eyes lifted slowly. A look that sent ice through her veins. Am I? His voice was smooth. Controlled. Deadly. Charlotte's throat tightened. Yes. Liam leaned back in his chair, swirling his drink. I suppose I've had a lot of time to think this weekend. He took a slow sip. About us. About our future. Charlotte's stomach twisted. You're not mad? She whispered. Liam's lips curled. Oh, sweetheart. His voice dropped, just above a whisper, I'm way past mad. Then, he placed his phone on the table. And pressed play. Charlotte's world shattered. Her own voice filled the room. I just needed one moment to feel like I was more than a shadow. Like I was someone worth noticing. Charlotte's breath hitched. No. No, 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 she lunged for the phone, but Liam snatched it away. Sit down. His voice was steel. She froze. She had never heard him sound like that before. Liam, where did you get that? She whispered. He took another slow sip of bourbon. Oh, Charlotte. He shook his head, almost amused. You really thought you could do this, and walk back in like nothing happened? Charlotte's hands trembled. It was just one weekend, Liam cut her off. Yeah. You said that already. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Tell me, Charlotte, his eyes darkened. If it was just one weekend, why did I find out about the other times? Charlotte's heart stopped. What? She whispered, barely breathing, what are you talking about? Liam smirked. Oh. You didn't think I'd dig, did you? Charlotte's stomach dropped. Oh, God. Liam slid a thick envelope across the table. Go ahead, he said, voice calm. Open it. Charlotte's fingers felt numb as she hesitated. Something inside her screamed that she didn't want to see what was inside. But Liam? He gave her no choice. He grabbed the envelope, ripped it open, and let the contents spill onto the table. Photographs. Dozens of photographs. Charlotte with Brandon Calloway. Laughing over lunch. Hands brushing. Lips inches apart in a dimly lit hotel lobby. Time-stamped messages. Receipts. And the worst part? It didn't just date back to this weekend. It went back months. Charlotte gasped, her face draining of color. How did you? Liam's smile was pure venom. You underestimated me, sweetheart. Charlotte's mind spiraled. She had been careful. Hadn't she? She looked at Liam, expecting to see rage. A storm. But there was only ice. Liam, I can explain, she stammered. He laughed. A low, dark sound. Oh, I'd love to hear it. She reached for his hand, desperate. It wasn't supposed to be like this. He yanked his hand away. Charlotte flinched. I was lonely, she whispered, tears welling up. Liam's eyes burned into hers. You were selfish. A heavy silence. Then, he exhaled, as if making a decision. Well, he said, standing. I hope your weekend was worth it. Charlotte's stomach nodded. Liam, what are you? But he was already walking away. And that was the moment Charlotte realized, she had lost him. But he wasn't done with her yet. Sunday evening arrived. Right on schedule. Charlotte returned exactly as she had promised. Her overnight bag trailed behind her, wheels rolling softly against the pavement. Her expression? Carefully neutral. Liam was waiting in the living room, sipping a glass of whiskey. His face unreadable. She hesitated in the doorway. I told you I'd be back, she said lightly, offering a small, hesitant smile. Liam gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. Something about his tone made her pause. Slowly, she lowered herself into the chair. Liam leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. His eyes? Cold. Calculating. Amused. So, he murmured. How was your weekend? Charlotte froze. Something in his tone sent a chill down her spine. It was fine, she said, forcing casualness into her voice. Liam nodded slowly. I bet. Charlotte swallowed. Liam, his phone buzzed. He held up a hand, cutting her off. Excuse me for a second. He pulled out his phone. Read the message. A slow, dangerous smirk spread across his lips. Phase 1 is complete. He's about to lose everything. Charlotte frowned. Who was that? Liam's smile didn't fade. His eyes darkened. Don't worry, sweetheart, he murmured. You'll find out soon enough. And that was the first time, since this all began, that Charlotte felt something she hadn't before. Fear. And Liam knew. This was just getting started. The next morning, Charlotte woke up to chaos. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages flooded her screen. From friends. From family. And then, she saw it. The leak. The photos. The messages. Someone had sent them to her workplace. To her friends. To her children. Charlotte's breath caught in her throat. Oh my God. She bolted up, heart hammering. Dreading what she'd find. And then, her eyes landed on the divorce papers sitting on the kitchen table. Liam's signature was already inked. And beside them, a small note. Actions have consequences. Welcome to yours. Charlotte collapsed into the chair. Liam hadn't just left. He had destroyed her. The fallout was immediate. Her boss called hours later. We need to talk. Her reputation was in flames. And Brandon? He was worse off. His wife found out. His business partners distanced themselves. And when Charlotte finally called him, desperate, pleading, he didn't pick up. She sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel, hyperventilating. Liam had been quiet. Too quiet. And that's when she realized, he had been planning this. Not just revenge. Destruction. And he wasn't done yet. Charlotte scrolled through her messages. From outrage. From disappointment. Her mother, Charlotte, what have you done? Her best friend, I can't believe you. Her coworker, I'd stay home if I were you. Her boss, emergency meeting. 9 a.m. Don't be late. Her breath came in shallow gasps. She tried to call Brandon. But the call went straight to voicemail. He was avoiding her. Of course he was. He had more to lose than she did. Her eyes darted to the divorce papers on the passenger seat. Liam had already signed. He wasn't waiting. He was erasing her. And then, her phone dinged. A new message. From Liam. Just 3 words. Check the news. Her stomach twisted. She opened the news app, and the headline hit her like a truck. Scandal exposed, prominent business executive's wife caught in affair with corporate partner. Below it, photos of her and Brandon. Charlotte's vision blurred. Liam hadn't just destroyed her marriage. He had destroyed her entire life. When Charlotte pulled into the driveway, she saw Ava's car parked outside. Her heart leaped. Maybe my daughter will still stand by me. She rushed inside, calling out, Ava? Her 20-year-old daughter stood in the living room, arms crossed. Her expression? Pure ice. Where's Dad? Ava asked. Charlotte flinched. He left. Ava nodded. Good for him. Charlotte's breath hitched. Sweetheart, I know this is a lot, don't call me that. Ava's voice was sharp. You don't get to play the victim. Charlotte stepped forward. Please, let me explain, I saw the photos. Charlotte's mouth snapped shut. Ava shook her head, disgusted. Do you even care about what you've done? About what this has done to Dad? Charlotte's eyes burned with tears. I made a mistake, she whispered. I know that now. Ava didn't blink. No, Mom, she said. You made a choice. Then, she grabbed her purse. I'm staying with Dad. Ava's voice was final. And I'm taking Lily with me. Charlotte's blood ran cold. No, she gasped, shaking her head. You can't take her away from me. But Ava was already walking to the door. She turned one last time. You don't deserve him. Then, she was gone. Charlotte collapsed onto the floor. Sobbing. She had lost everything. Days passed. Charlotte didn't leave the house. Didn't eat. Didn't sleep. Everywhere she went, she was a pariah. People stared at her in the grocery store. Old friends ignored her calls. And Liam? He was thriving. She saw the photos online. Him. Smiling. Happy. With another woman. Charlotte's breath hitched. She zoomed in on the photo. The woman's name was Eleanor Blackwood. Charlotte stared at the screen. Eleanor. Liam was moving on. And not just with anyone. With her. Eleanor was from Liam's past. A woman he had once been close to. Charlotte had always sensed something between them. But back then, Liam had chosen her. And now he was showing her what it felt like to be replaced. Charlotte's heart twisted in agony. Because for the first time, she understood. She had thrown Liam away. And now, he had done the same to her. But worse. Because while she was drowning, he was flourishing. Charlotte sat in the dark, scrolling through her phone. Everywhere she looked, there he was. Liam. Smiling. Liam. Thriving. Liam. With Eleanor Blackwood. It wasn't just a casual fling. They were together. Publicly. Her fingers trembled over the screen. She had ruined everything. But she wasn't done yet. She needed to see him, one last time. Charlotte knocked on the door of Liam's new apartment. Her heart pounded. She had no right to be here. But she had nowhere else to go. The door opened. And there he was. Liam stood tall, arms crossed. His expression, unreadable. And behind him, Eleanor. The sight nearly broke her. Liam's voice was flat. "What do you want, Charlotte?" She swallowed hard. "I need to talk to you." A pause. Then, "No." The door began to close. Charlotte panicked. "Liam, please," he held up a hand. "Don't beg." Charlotte flinched. Because for the first time, she saw it in his eyes. He felt nothing for her anymore. She had done this. And there was no undoing it. Charlotte sat in her car, hands gripping the steering wheel. Her life was in ruins. No husband. No career. Her children wouldn't even speak to her. She had lost everything. And Liam? He had one. But she wasn't mad at him. Because he had every right to hate her. For the first time in months, she truly understood. She had broken him. And he had done the same to her. The difference? He had moved on. And she was stuck in the wreckage. Charlotte sat at her kitchen table, staring at a blank sheet of paper. She had nothing left. No way to fix what she had done. But she could at least do one thing right. She picked up the pen. And she wrote. "Dear Liam, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. I ruined everything, and I will spend the rest of my life regretting it. But I want you to know, I loved you. I still do. Even if you never want to see me again, please know, I am sorry. For all of it." Charlotte she folded the letter. Placed it in an envelope. And mailed it. Her final goodbye. Liam found the letter in his mailbox. His fingers hovered over the envelope, debating whether to open it. In the end, he did. He read the words. And for the first time, he felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just, nothing. Because he had already let her go. And he had no intention of looking back. He tossed the letter in the drawer, and moved on with his day. Months passed. Charlotte slowly rebuilt herself. She got a new job. Started therapy. Focused on being the best mother she could be. Even if Ava and Lily were still distant. She had lost her old life. But she wasn't going to let it define her. She had a long way to go. But for the first time, she was trying. Liam and Eleanor walked hand in hand through a quiet park. The past felt like a distant memory. Charlotte no longer occupied his thoughts. He had moved forward. With someone who respected him. Who valued him. And for the first time in years, Liam Bennett was truly, finally happy. One day, Charlotte and Liam crossed paths. A random meeting at a coffee shop. Their eyes met. Charlotte swallowed. Liam, she whispered. He nodded. A moment of silence. Then, I hope you're doing well, he said, his voice genuine. Charlotte's eyes burned with unshed tears. I'm trying, she whispered. Liam gave a small, almost sad smile. Then, he walked away. And that was the last time they ever spoke. Charlotte learned the hardest lesson of her life. She had taken everything for granted. And she had lost it all. Liam had found his peace. And now, she needed to find hers. Not in someone else. Not in fixing the past. But in becoming better. Years later. Liam stood in the backyard of his home. Watching his kids play. Eleanor was beside him, smiling. His wife. His future. Charlotte was just a chapter in his past. A painful one. But one that no longer defined him. Because in the end, the greatest revenge wasn't ruining Charlotte. It was moving on. And living a life she could never touch again.